you're comparing former players to graduates when you talk about experience, but for me, there's someone who's worked in an industry in a certain job in one position, trying to go within that industry.
They're a janitor.
To one,
they're a janitor at HSBC.
They're not.
And now they want to work behind.
So you're saying Johan Cruyff was a janitor for Ajax? Yeah? No, but that's what you're trying to.
Yes.
Is he?
He was the best janitor. That's why he was the best. He cleaned the stackers.
Okay, so Zidane was a
But
janitor.
it's a different job. We're going to talk about, you mentioned Thierry Henry losing to Club Brugge, Gerrard,
And everyone else.
There's a lot of managers recently, even just in the last year or so, ex-players, who haven't necessarily gone through, I would say, the rigors of management, i.e. from the lower leagues through to the top divisions, or even plied their trade in reserve under 21 football as much. And I know you want to talk about ex-players who have been fast-tracked into management. Just some of the names. Thierry Henry obviously at Monaco. Sol Campbell now is at Macclesfield. I mean, he's an old guy. He's been he's been looking around for a while. Steven Gerrard's at Rangers. Frank Lampard's at Derby. And I feel like I'm missing one.
Ryan Giggs.
He's
Wales. Wales. So Ramone.
Yeah, basically the topic came about. I mean, one of the reasons why Chama's here is because we had a big discussion in our group. Chama and another guy from our group, they had a discussion about this, and it was about necessarily. Kind of started off about ex-players in general becoming managers, and we should be allowed other coaches that have no footballing experience to be managers. We very rarely see that. But then it went on to how good does your CV have to be of a player to get into management, that sort of thing. And so basically we just kind of discussed ex-players getting fast-tracked into management, and is it right? So I'll let Chama start off his your view on ex-players and the fast-track into management.
The fast-track, okay. So this is my simple view. To me, it makes sense. People, even at work, had this argument. People can say that it's not right because I haven't gone through the rigors and I haven't gone necessarily through the quote-unquote correct steps that you have to take in order to get into management. But the way I personally view it is, in any industry, right, a professional footballer has had 10, 15, up to 18 years, right, in that footballing environment where they understand dressing rooms, they understand the rigors and the pressures of going through an entire season. I'm not saying coaching or managing is the same as playing, but I'm saying is being in that professional environment, working under top managers, or not even working under top managers, but working under different managers. Or if you're a player who's worked with one manager, in all likelihood, you've worked under a top manager your entire career. They understand the game in a way that somebody coming in with all the qualifications, or even someone who's worked their way through, might not necessarily understand the game. And I think that there is enough of a track record of players being fast-tracked and actually doing well that that it's worth the chance. What I don't like is the way my friend came at it. Basically, is I think somebody must have said something about Henry losing again, which could have been any of the weeks that he got a job. And there's this. Some people have this vitriol, this anger at players getting fast-tracked. And I don't get it, because players have been fast-tracked. It's not a recent thing. It's not something that's just happened. Johan Cruyff got fast-tracked.
Yeah.
Sir Kenny Dalglish got fast-tracked. And they didn't do too badly, you know. So it's not a new thing in football. It's not a thing that's going to end now. Do you know what I mean?
But then obviously you have examples like Gary Neville.
You have examples like Gary Neville. You've got examples like Zinedine Zidane and Pep Guardiola as well. So for me, it's the vitriol. Like, I've come to see it now, like, with a bit more sense. I do understand people saying you need to start from the top, but this vitriol of it being so wrong,
but
that it shouldn't happen. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Being a manager and being a player is, I would say, two different things.
Yeah, no one's arguing against that. No one's making the point that they're the same thing.
Being a captain, you might be in a better position because you might have leadership. Certain well, obviously got leadership qualities, but you may have certain tasks that it's a regular player don't have in terms of maybe in the dressing room, etc., etc. But I see the benefit behind having some kind of managerial experience behind you before, especially getting a top job. Because I wouldn't necessarily say Sol Campbell's in fast track. I mean, Sol Campbell's probably the one.
He's doing what people
would say is the right way.
Should do, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying there's necessarily a right or wrong way per se.
Well, some people think there's definitely
no, I
a
hear
right
that,
way.
but you wouldn't get a player who wasn't at the top level getting that job. You wouldn't get a let's say, I don't know, Joey Barton. Where did he go? He wouldn't have got a Premier. I know he played the Premier level, but he wouldn't get.
You went Fleetwood. Yeah.
It was Fleetwood. Yeah, he wouldn't get a top Premier League job.
Because what does Joey Barton? Because my point is, those players, the Kenny Dalglish, the Zidane, they understand the rigors of going through a Champions League season, going for the title.
As a player, I think it's
Joey Barton does not understand nothing about going for the title. He doesn't have the benefits I'm talking about.
But I'm saying, going through as a player, I think because I've seen examples, enough examples. And I was early, but Thierry Henry being one, Gary Neville being another, where and even Ryan Giggs, he struggled at Wales. He has struggled from where Wales were when he got them. And granted, people might say they overachieved, but he's supposed to take them on another level, and he hasn't done that. But he played at the highest level for the longest possible time. Okay. So I don't think going for Champions League and going through that.
I say Ryan Giggs' experience does not directly correlate to the job he's got, because Ryan Giggs shirked Wales' response. Like, as a player, he should be.
So would you say Gareth Bale's Gareth Bale would be if he's ready to go into management, because he was like, he's got a better international record than Giggs for Wales, he would be a better person for that job?
It depends on how seriously and how committed he personally is towards playing for Wales. Like Ryan Giggs at Wales, I'm saying you understand the rigors and whatever of going through a season at a specific level. Ryan Giggs didn't really particularly care for international football. He should be Wales's record appearance holder. He isn't. So Ryan Giggs doing poorly Ryan Giggs took the Wales job because he wants to be a manager. He put himself in the hat for the Swansea job, I'm pretty sure, as well. He wants to be a manager. They put a punt on him. I can understand why.
But if they've given him the job because of who he is,
because
even though he hasn't gone through...
Exactly. I can understand why, because another reason you want to do that is people say, and this one I don't 100% agree with, but you have a insert X big name in the dressing room who's going to inspire you more than X big name. That's what people said about Thierry Henry, that because he came from Monaco and Monaco players will look at him and be, oh, it's Thierry Henry. I don't necessarily think that works. I think where the logic works is...
How are you judging it then? What are we judging?
This is my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion.
What are we judging these players' managerial ability on? Because obviously... Wales didn't take that into account. They just hired him based on who he was.
And I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I think that's the wrong way to go about it. Okay, let's take when Pep and Jose went for the same Barcelona job. And apparently, what I've heard anyway from people who read up on these guys extensively is that it was Pep's understanding of like the culture of Barcelona and the philosophy of the football club. Him being captain of that football club and then working a year as a coach. I think that was even academic, to be honest. The fact that he was captain of that football club, the fact that he understood in and out
if he had flopped as a B manager, do you think he would have still got the...
No, he wouldn't. All that did, it was important, but I think what that did was galvanise something that they wanted to do anyway, because you're Pep at that point in time. Pep Guardiola and Jose Champions League winning Mourinho, only one man should get that job, really and truly. But as a guy who got fast tracked, was the right man for that job, because think about any job in any other industry, right? You could be the fact that you work for a specific company and understand how things work in that culture. Will, if you've done that for 15 plus years, that will see you looked at more positively. And for me, when it comes to players being fast tracked, that is what is happening.
All right,
that's absolutely fair. That happens in all walks of life, in all industries. I don't get it.
Let me happening.
It being fair is
fair.
But I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying it happening doesn't prove that it's fair. It just means it happens.
I think it is fair,
but it depends what you will class as fair and what I will class as fair. I'm saying the fact that it happens.
I'd say, like,
I want Ramone to come in, but I'm just saying the fact that it happens for me is not a say because it happens, therefore it's right, or therefore it's,
I think for me personally, I'm very much on the fence of the idea. When I was looking at the argument, is very much because if you look at the experience and what's happened, you can go half and half and say these guys succeeded, these guys didn't. What is the standard? But for me, and actually, I haven't spoken to my friend this week about it, and yeah, and because he wanted to get his point. Now he wanted to get his point across, and I said to you both, I'll give you both the opportunity. But it was it's not necessarily that ex-players should be given a fast track role, and or ex-players should become managers is a problem. It's the mindset of their ex-players who have succeeded, so they should be given a chance ahead of other people and fast-tracked in. And what we had, and there was, I remember there was a time in Match of the Day when Jermaine Genius and Shearer were talking about this, and they said managers have to go through a certain qualifications to get a job in football. But what happened is that the process is too long. And so through that process, people don't want to do it. They should be allowed a system where ex-players should be given a little a leeway.
Yeah, so they've got like they're exempt from certain parts of
to finish their because they've been in football, to finish their coaching badges a bit earlier to get into football. But what the coaches are saying, a lot of coaches have this opinion, is that the reason why it's there is because you have to learn a certain amount of coaching before you should be allowed to play coach the game. Being, as you said earlier, being a player and being a manager are two different skills. Some players do not have the qualities to be managers, and vice versa. Now, if you take someone, for example, like Jose Mourinho, who played about 100 games or so for Portugal, and for a team in Portugal in the second division, or whatever. Yeah. If you ask him, his mindset was always wanting to be a coach. Yeah. He didn't really care too much about the playing the game.
He knew he was never going to be like a professional footballer.
So he honed in his skills from early by learning, by qualifying, going through his process of getting his coaching badge and learning underneath quite a lot of people to get where he believed that he should be now as a manager, to what he always wanted to be was a manager. And players when they're playing football, their mindset is about winning, playing football for their club, doing the best of their ability as a player. Their mindset, majority of the time, until they get about 31, 32, is not in management at all. So they're all of a sudden thinking, oh, I'm a player. What's the next step I want to do after football? Oh, probably coaching. I need to get into management role because otherwise I'll become like a lot of players and just get lost after football. And there's another debate about players after football and where they should go. But it's the whole process of what mindset should we be given players to say, actually, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, you were great for England. Here, have a job at Derby, have a job at Rangers because you deserve it. You can have a year in the academy. Once you've done a year in the academy, and
I think Gerrard was in the
both of them. Both of them. I think both of them. I think Frank Lampard did an academy role.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did an academy role somewhere.
Okay.
But it wasn't long at all. Again, it wasn't long at all. It's just but for me, it's the mindset of saying, oh yeah, you can have a year. So we say that you've got some experience. And I'm not saying that Gerrard and Lampard are allowed their mindset wasn't that they wanted to be managers and that they were just thrown into this position because of who they are. But at the same time, how much talk do we have of lack of English coaches, lack of English coaches in the Premier League because of the foreign investment? So there's definitely a push from the FA to get these players
to make it easy.
Yeah, to make it easy for them to become managers.
Making it easy.
Because they see that there's so much lack of English managers in the Premier League and in the Football League in general that we need to push these guys through to get them into management.
Now, I don't have all the stats in front of me when it comes to this, but I would like to know has like Pep Guardiola, Zinedine Zidane. When did they get their coaching badges? Because it's one thing pushing like English coaches and foreign coaches. That debate about our coaches and managers being behind foreign coaches. Maybe because the foreign coaches are dedicated to doing what they need to do, i.e. the qualification to become a coach.
Especially in Germany, from what I've heard,
and pushing English players, ex-players into coaching for a stat to say we've got so many English coaches, I think is wrong. The fact that a player has gone on how many Champions League runs or won X amount of Premier League titles, if you're not willing to put in the work that has been set out by the FA, which has or whatever board, UEFA B license, A license, whatever it is, if you're not willing to do that and you feel that you're somehow entitled to get this role because of your playing career, for me, it means you ain't got the right mindset for management. Now, it doesn't mean those players who are not willing to do that or don't want to do that cannot be good managers. Steven Gerrard. I'm not saying that he's not willing to put in that work, but he's doing well at Rangers. But I think this it says something if you're willing to put in the work that's been laid before, to say, well, okay, cool, that is the the obstacle that I have to cover. But if every coach has to do it and it's worked for foreign coaches, then why shouldn't it work for us? In reality, English coaching has and is behind foreign coaching. So instead of going one way in terms of pushing players just to into management roles, make them follow the same process that foreign coaches are facing, and maybe we'll get good English coaches on the other side.
I personally think that's conflating two issues there. I think the issue of English coaches being behind foreign coaches is the number of registered, whether you take ex-pros or other people getting into football out of the question. The number of registered top level coaches in England is below that of Spain, it's below that of Germany. I think proportionally it's below that of like Iceland. Iceland's whole come up in football is making sure all of their coaches were trained to a certain standard. So I think that is a slightly different debate. I think whether you fast track or don't fast track players into management, the number of highly qualified coaches in England needs to go up anyway. And I think that's conflating two different things. I think my view is still the same, that in any other walk of life, that is seen as industry experience. In any other walk of life, you don't just kind of say, all right, go away and do XYZ qualification because you have to go and do XYZ qualification. In any other walk of life,
even if you're going into a management role in a company, you sure you don't have to.
If the company themselves feel that you need to do it, they will.
Well, this is the thing. This is the due process.
No. If the company themselves feel like it,
yeah.
If it's not something mandatory, because we're talking about basically making these things mandatory. Trust me, if it's not mandatory and they think that you're ready, then they'll take that into consideration. They'll take your experience into consideration and give you the job right there and then. If we make it mandatory, then you're not really giving the industry, whether it's football or not football, they don't have that option. If an industry has an option not to wait for the person that they want for the job, they're not going to wait. They're going to bring them in right here, right now. No one wants to go and spend money.
So then, what's the point of all these qualifications then?
It's not.
It's like, I guess it's like when people say, "Oh, I'm not even going uni anymore because all they want is experience."
Yeah.
So we're gonna come to a point where it's like, just close down the uni because no one wants it anyway.
I'm saying the players. Obviously, not everybody who's. I'm not saying everybody who becomes a coach has to be a former player. We're talking about whether it's fair or not that they get fast tracked. I think disregarding the experience of a former player is, to me, like disregarding, like you're comparing former players to graduates when you talk about experience. But for me, there's someone who's worked in an industry in a certain job in one position, trying to go within that industry.
They're a janitor.
They're
a janitor at HSBC.
They're not.
And now they want to work behind.
So they're saying Johan Cruyff was a janitor for Ajax. Yeah? No, but that's what you're trying to.
Yes,
is it?
He was the best janitor. He was the best. He cleaned the stackers.
Okay, so Zidane was a
But
janitor.
I'm saying it's a different job. Okay, maybe it's not the janitor to director, but it's like being maybe, let's say, okay, it's like being a operation engineer. Let's say you'll be an engineer, and now you want to do accounting. You're not the lowest of the roles there, but it's not. Yes, you know the operations of the site, but can you crunch the numbers?
Okay.
Yeah, you know how to kick ball, but can you manage people? It's not the same.
Day to day, a player will be working directly with coaches and managers. Day to day is the engineer person working with that. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. So day to day, they're working with the people. Day to day, they're in that team environment. Day to day, they're in a dressing room. Day to day, they're on a training pitch.
I tell you why I disagree with that completely. I tell you, I tell you why. I tell you why. Completely.
Nice of you to join us.
Completely disagree. It's because you say that these players have been playing 10, 15, 18 years. You know, week in, week out, month in, month out, etc. Right? And they know the sport. But majority of managers were ex-players, so they have that same playing experience. But on top of that, they have the management experience. You have regular managers like Mark Hughes. He was an ex-player. He's got playing experience. Jose Mourinho was an ex-player.
Mark Hughes was pretty much fast-tracked. That's what we were talking about.
I'm not 100% sure.
I'm pretty sure his first job was Wales.
But I don't think he was. But even if he was, or he wasn't, the majority of managers nowadays were ex-players. Any manager that you name is pretty much an ex-player.
Yeah.
So you're saying that saying that your Thierry Henrys and your Gary Nevilles, they've got this playing experience, but so do all the other managers. What they have, they don't have anything more than what the other managers have. The other managers have what they have and more. So why should they get fast-tracked into these jobs over other managers when they have playing experience, they've got management experience, they've probably got international caps too. They've got all of that same record, but they've got the management.
It's not me competing against
exactly.
Lampard to get the job.
Exactly.
It's Didier Deschamps and them, man, isn't it?
Exactly. And they have a playing career as well. So to say that, because they've played or they've been under a top manager for how many years? Yeah, but so were these other managers. They were under a manager. Some of these players were look at what's his name? The black guy that was on the Ian Wright's documentary. Yeah, he was captain.
Yeah, he went.
He was
MK Don.
Manager,
and
that he was captain, so he's got a playing career. He
was also fast tracked into management as well.
No, but he started from the bottom.
Yeah, but he didn't do his badges.
He didn't do.
When he got the black band, he still hadn't done badges.
No.
Okay.
They literally pushed him straight into management,
and then look what happened.
Yeah.
I'm not saying because he didn't have his badges. I'm not saying because he didn't have his badges.
But he was a failure. He
at Premier League level he was, yes, but he did well at MK.
Yeah, but he didn't make it into the top level. And I think the reason why he's not getting the opportunities, okay, there's a whole race issue aside to that, but people will look at it and say, but Paul Ince, you haven't done your badges to a certain level. You haven't done your badges to a certain level, and then I'm looking at your experience, and you've done all right here. You didn't make it in Premier League. Why should I then give you another job over someone who has done the badges and got through the certain process to make it at the level that we require?
Just because you play for Man United, Liverpool.
Yeah, just because of who you play for. Now, one thing I do want to say, there was when. Let's just take Alan Shearer for example, right? He at the time when Newcastle was struggling and they sacked their manager. I think it was obviously only a temporary role, but his mindset, I genuinely believe if Newcastle stayed up, he would have still stayed on past the season. I just feel like he was given a role to keep them up, and he didn't succeed, and he went down. I don't know. It might not have been, but that's what I think what happens with Alan Shearer. And then for me, because that's happened, and he had no badges, no qualifying experience, they just threw him in because he was Alan Shearer. Because he was the king, and it didn't work. They said, all right, it's not working. Let's go with someone who I don't know who they went with after this, but with experience. But Gus Heading at the time said, Alan Shearer, you don't think this management thing isn't easy. You can't just be thrown into this job and do. He was at Chelsea at the time. He was been there for years, worked his way to get his level. Don't think it's easy to get here and just manage a Premier League club and it's going to be all easy. He's frozen for you.
No, I agree.
And I think a lot of players, people like Jermaine Jenas and Alan Shearer can say that, but then you're taking the comfort of just sitting in a punditry, making your good money, and just saying, why is there no English coaches in the football game? Because people like you don't want to go through the process of training and honing in the skill of being a manager. And I think this is the problem. We don't see it as a skill to be trained in a management role. We think because you're an ex-player, you should have the skills to manage a whole team. And I think it also goes to the fact that young people, let's just say for example, right, you wanted to be a coach your whole career and you've never been a footballer, right? Are you ever realistically going to make it as a coach? Because the amount of all we seem to do is the fact that I think partly the reason why we don't have coaches in this country is because people that do actually want to be managers and do want to be coaches are never given that chance, because we always go to the home players and the guys that have been there and we say, okay, right, you've played the game. I'm not sure how you're going to be as a manager. I've got no idea what you can do. But you could play the game. I'm going to give you opportunity. Whereas there's coaches that have been there for years, 15, 20 years. Even people like, I sent you man the interview of Klopp. And he said from 20 years old, he wanted to be a manager. His mindset was honing his gift as a manager. And I think in Germany, but in Germany, he was given the opportunity to work for his badges and work his way up. When I feel like in England, we don't think about that. We just, he from what I'm hearing, he came to his club and said, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be in management. Whereas I think the English players are not giving up. The English players that want to be coaches are not given opportunity because they just go to the Gerrards and Lampards, who at the time have never expressed any desire to be a manager. We just assume they would be because of who they are. But are they going through the right due processes to get there? I don't think they are, and I don't think it's necessarily right and fair on the guys that even are playing but are honing in their manager experiences while playing and studying the game and getting their badges.
Because they're not Gerrard and because they're not Lampard.
And then people will say they don't have time because they're playing international football and doing that. How are they going to get their badges? Well, I'm sorry, but you have to work for it. Players right now are doing their badges while playing football.
When I was doing I'm working as an accountant and doing ACCA.
Yeah.
You got to work and you got to study if you want to be qualified at the end to go into some, financial controller, be a manager of a region, whatever it is. I can't just say, well, you know what, I've worked in the finance industry for X amount of years. I know how to do. Yeah, but you didn't get the qualifications. I don't. For mine, it's probably more mandatory than not, and so they're forced to do it. But then you still get people who, because they know a guy or they've been around, it's like, all right, yeah, you can do the job. And then sometimes they get to the point, it's like, maybe they actually can't do the job because there was something in that coaching manual that there's a reason why we set it there. Maybe there's something that was important that they didn't study because they were just doing the day-to-day experience, but they didn't get the theoretical side behind it, which is important. But I mean, we have to, we see how it progresses in this country. As we've got two leading ex-England players, Gerrard and Lampard. Obviously, Gerrard over in Scotland, and they're both doing well at the moment. Derby's pushing for promotion this season. Steven Gerrard is top of the SPL, Scottish Premier League, with Rangers, which is a massive, massive surprise. #Rodgers out. So we'll see how that goes, and maybe if they do prove to be a success, we might get more and more of these kind of cases where it's like, well, maybe we don't need to go through certain processes.
Well,
but we'll see what happens.
Get more Gary Nevilles. Get more Gary Nevilles.
But if they don't, it may be evidence to those who are saying no. The processes are there for a reason, and everyone should go through it. I want to thank Chama for joining us today on our Neeks Sports Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And Ramone, of course, Neeks Sports. Gonna see you probably on the weekend. See, we've got West Ham versus Watford, I think it is this weekend. And Kyle, of course, we'll see you next time on the podcast.
Maybe.
Thanks for joining us. Make sure you drop us a comment. Let us know all your thoughts on everything we spoke about before. That's it from me, Neeks, here on the podcast, and I'll see you soon.